Hi, everyone.
All
We have
right.
opened up the room and we've got some folks entering in right now. So
All right. We're just going to let uh, everyone trickle in. Just give us about 20 more seconds. All right. Looks like we have critical mass. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining Congresswoman Scholten's town hall on small business matters today. It is great to be with you all. I am Ricky Miller, the Congresswoman's Chief of Staff, and I will be moderating your call today. If you would like to submit a question in writing for the Congresswoman and Ed to answer, you may do so using the chat feature or the question and answer feature, which are at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions about how to submit questions, please ask me. When it says messaging hosts and panelists, that will come to me and I will be able to answer and help any tech issues. You do not need to share your name or company when asking a question. We can keep your questions anonymous because we want to make sure we can answer everything on your mind. If you would like us to share this information, please let us know as well. We are glad to have Congresswoman Scholten, West Michigan's voice in Washington, joining us today, as well as Ed Garner, the Regional Director of the West Michigan Small Business Development Center, to answer your questions. We have some pre-submitted questions and we'll take questions live as well. If you have a question that's not related to small business matters, please submit it, and we will do our best to answer it if we have time at the end of our conversation. Now I will turn it over to Congresswoman Hillary Scholten.
thank you so much, Ricky, for kicking us off. And thank you so much to all of you for joining us in this incredibly special small business town hall. I am very glad, honored to be joined by a special guest today, Mr. Ed Garner, who is the regional director for the West Michigan Small Business Development Center. I hope you'll forgive my scratchy voice and the dark eyes. I've pulled not one, but two back-to-back all-nighters as we have voted on the huge budget reconciliation bill, which for some reason, I will maintain polite company, but for some reason, House Republican leadership chose to schedule in the middle of the night, away from the eyes of the American people. So, but we showed up and we made our concerns with this bill heard. Um, I'll have some updates on that in just a moment, but I just want to say that this call is for you, the small business owners, workers, and community builders who are the heart of West Michigan. You show up every single day, creating jobs and solving problems and investing in your communities, and you deserve representatives in Washington that will fight for you. As a member of the House Small Business Committee, I have had a chance to sit down with many of you in roundtables across the district. And in those conversations, I've heard your concerns loud and clear. You are not asking for handouts. You are asking for a fair shot. You're asking for stability, for coherent and steady leadership in Washington, for smart economic policy, a government that doesn't make it harder for you to do your job. So that's what I set out to do in Washington every single day. Take those concerns and try to turn that into policy objectives. Unfortunately, under the current presidential administration, we have seen a wave of chaotic and unpredictable policies, particularly in the space around tariffs and our trade policy. And I know over the last 6 months, especially as we have traveled West Michigan, we have heard from so many of you um, who have raised concerns about either individual tariffs or just the unpredictable nature of them, raising the question, what if I'm next? What if my manufacturing parts are next? And for those of you who run small businesses that create U.S. jobs, create U.S. products, but rely in small part on products from overseas, particularly China, I know that you have seen an exponential rise in the cost of your products. Not only those overall ticket prices, but again, just the unpredictable nature of it. It is not our job to stand in your way. We need to make it easier and more stable for you to do your job. I deeply believe that setting our trade policy is clearly prescribed as a matter for Congress, and that we should be the ones who are setting our tariff policies through deliberation and debate. So, whether it is the manufacturers who can't get materials at a reliable price, farmers struggling with their overseas markets due to reciprocal tariffs, or small retailers watching costs soar. These policies are making it harder, not easier, to grow American businesses. So that's why I'm going to continue to fight for common sense trade and economic policies that put small business owners and American workers first. I have supported legislation, including the Investing in All of America Act, that increases investments in critical technology sectors. I've also championed the Women-Owned Small Business Integrity Act that streamlines the process for women-owned businesses to get certified so women can focus on running their businesses instead of bureaucracy. And I am working to ensure that you, not big corporations, get a seat at the table. I'm going to keep showing up, whether it's on the House floor at 3 o'clock in the morning or on a Zoom call with all of you after a sleepless night at 11 a.m. I'm going to fight for your ability to grow, hire, and thrive here in West Michigan. Today's town hall is a chance to answer your questions and hear directly from you about what is working, what's not, and how I can improve what we do. I am now so honored to turn it over to Ed Garner, who, as I mentioned at the outset, is our regional director of the West Michigan Small Business Development Center. If you're on this call and you don't know what a Small Business Development Center is, well, then you're in for a treat. Ed's going to tell us a whole lot more about what they do. Ed is incredibly accomplished. He previously served as the president and CEO of the Muskegon Area First, a nonprofit, non-private corporation serving all of Muskegon County. For those of you on the district or on the call, maybe engaging with our work for the first time, I represent all of Michigan's 3rd congressional district, which includes parts of Kent, Ottawa, and Muskegon counties. Garner is also currently the board president of the Urban League of Greater Muskegon and the board treasurer of the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District. He's got a master's in business administration from Western Michigan University and a bachelor's in science and engineering from Michigan State University. Go green. I'll say it for you, Ricky. We've got a lot of Spartans in our office, and including our awesome small business ledge assistant, Anna Marsh, who is also on the call. Ed, I turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, and thanks for having me this morning. I first want to thank the congressman for all the support you provided for small businesses, not only in West Michigan, but fighting for all small business throughout the state of Michigan. So it's very, very important. And when we say small, people always take that like they think like micro small, but we're talking companies, in the neighborhood, sometimes up to 500 employees. So in Michigan, that would be about 99.7% of all companies would be considered small businesses by our SBA standards. So I did want to clarify one thing from the onset, though. There is only one Michigan Small Business Development Center. There's not a West Michigan Small Business Development Center. We are broken down in 10 regions, and I am the regional director for the west side of the state. But there's only one Michigan Small Business Development Center serving all 83 counties of the state of Michigan through our 10 regional centers. So happy to be here. If you haven't heard about us, we are funded through the U.S. Small Business Administration. So this is some of your federal dollars that's hard at work to help small businesses start, to help them grow, to help them transition, trying to figure out a lot kind of what's going on now with a lot of the uncertainty that's out there right now. And we provide, a lot of one-on-one consulting services with our team of business consultants throughout the state. We do a lot of training, education programs, trying to keep you up to date on things happen when new legislation comes out, and trying to how to figure out how to interpret some of that as well. And also, we do a lot of research for companies. So if you look into, trying to transfer, trying to pivot, trying to figure out what's going on. You may need to look at new markets, whether in the country or exporting and stuff as well. We're there to help you out to explore those opportunities there as well. All our services are no cost because you are paying for it through your tax dollars, and we also get money from the state of Michigan and our local hosts. The Grand Valley State University oversees the entire program for the state, and everybody chips in so that you, as a small business owner, do not have to pay for services like ours. So happy to be here, and hopefully I can answer all your questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. I can take questions now, Congresswoman, if that works for you.
That sounds great.
Fantastic. The questions keep coming in. A reminder, you can either chat us or use the Q&A feature. And in the Q&A feature, you can ask your questions anonymously. The first question that we have is what you're doing, Congresswoman, to address workforce shortages that are currently in West Michigan.
That is a fantastic question. One of the things I think that there's a few different through lines that I have seen in my visits with small businesses. You ask a small business, what is the number one issue you're facing? Access to capital usually comes off as the first one, and the second one is pretty consistently worker shortages. So, one of the things that I have done in particular is to address access to individuals who don't necessarily want to go to a 4-year college. I have worked with local training centers to make it easier and better to go to vocational training, trade schools. I support bills in Congress that will allow individuals to use their 529 plans for trade schools and vocational training. My very first bill that I introduced was the Honoring Vocational Education Act, which is a bill that would change the way the United States Census covers 4-year college degrees, covers higher education. You no longer just only get to check that box where if you've gone to a 4-year college degree, if you go to a trade school as well. And we are working to get that through. It is a bipartisan legislation, and we are continuing to grow our bipartisan support in that bill. So the legislation that I referenced earlier about the 529 plan is called the Freedom to Invest in Tomorrow's Workforce Act. My team can put a link in the chat if you're interested in learning more about that, as well as my bill, the Honoring Vocational Education Act. The other one is addressing H-2B visas, the Closing the Workforce Gap Act, which lifts the cap on H-2B visas so employers can find the seasonal workers that they need. In West Michigan in particular, we are so incredibly fortunate to have the individual, the sort of seasonal work that we need here, where people are coming to our part of the state, whether it's for an awesome cozy brewery tour in the winter or to take advantage of our wonderful beaches in the summer. But those seasonal workers are a key part of what we do, and I think that's a critical piece. Additionally, I think a real conversation about common sense immigration reform has to be a part of this conversation. As many of you know, I have been working on bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform well before I came to Congress, and I am excited to champion that in a bipartisan way here as well. We have to do something about securing our southern border, about addressing the flow of individuals around the country, or around the world, from country to country. We live in an increasingly globalized world, and we need an immigration system that can keep pace. Other countries have fast, efficient, and effective ways to screen who's coming into their country, not only to keep them safe, but to make sure that, when there's an up-and-coming job that requires, highly technical engineers from a certain part of the world, we can get those visas when we need them. We've got a huge growing healthcare sector here in West Michigan, shortage of nurses and doctors. So, I think addressing that through immigration is also one way, but certainly not to the extent that it would displace our U.S. workers, and that is at the heart of our business immigration legislation, and will always remain a core foundational component.
Great. Nikki, can I make a couple of comments there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just two quick things. So number one, if you have not engaged your Michigan Works Workforce Development office, please do so. I used to be on the board of Michigan Works on the west side here, and they provide a slew really of services that employers may not be aware of in terms of trying to search for the right employees, developing job descriptions, doing job searches. And there's no cost for these services, once again. And so if you have not engaged your Michigan Works office, please do so and see what they have to offer you in way of assistance there. And then secondly, I just want to mention in terms of workforce shortages, because I came out of economic development and we've been talking about workforce shortages even before the pandemic. We knew it was coming. You can just kind of look at the population and the birth rates and so forth, and you can kind of project how many employees you may need. And one of the things that everybody should be looking at is some AI tools. If you haven't been looking at any AI tools at your industry, AI is there not to replace your jobs, is there really to help you work smarter and more efficiently. And so we all are trying to do more with less. Even at the SBDC, we're trying to do more with less, and one of the ways to do that is to use increased technologies.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, and great shout out to West Michigan Works. They're just doing incredible work, and if Ricky wants to drop a link as well, there we're so grateful to have that awesome resource, right here in West Michigan.
Absolutely can do, Congresswoman. We have a comment that says that as someone who takes community college classes, I can attest that all these kids want to work. Not all community colleges get toured or courted by industry. So thank you for your work, Congresswoman. Our
Yeah.
next question
Happy to do it.
is,
And I will say, if there's anybody on the call too that has experience with a great vocational training program here in the district, we would love to go and tour, learn more about it. This is not, I referenced these bills at the outset about how we support this vocational training, stuff. These are not just bills that we sort of sign off on and call it a day. We have really been working to garner bipartisan support, find ways that we can get them passed into law. This has just been a huge priority of mine. As a mom of two boys now becoming young men who will, in no time be charting their own professional course. I think about this all the time, and, wanting to make sure that they have options out there, and they know that, going to a four-year college degree is not the only thing that's out there for them. So.
absolutely, thank you, Congresswoman. The next question is that the IRS has not processed our employee retention credits. What should we do?
Oh, great question. Call our office. So one of the biggest learning curves for me in becoming a representative is that, so many people just think of a U.S. congressperson as someone who, goes to vote in Washington, D.C., and, they don't really ever see them again back in the community. I am working to change that on so many levels, because in fact, more than 50% of the job that I do is right back home in West Michigan, helping our small businesses, our stakeholders, my individual constituents to interact with a federal agency. I have come in contact with so many individuals who are struggling with their employee retention credits, and they're surprised to learn we can help with that. We have an entire casework team in my district office that helps with a federal agency and helps to interact, whether it's the IRS or Social Security or the Department of Labor or the Small Business Administration. Of course, we're here to help. So call our office. I've got the number here. Ricky's going to put it in the chat as well. 616-451 8383. Brad Steck, who is my constituent services director, we lovingly call him Big Money Brad because he helps return all of these great returns to the district. This is literally your money, and it is my job as an advocate to fight for it and put it back in your pocket. So we're here to help. We can't necessarily determine your eligibility, but we can find out what's stuck and help to get it unstuck. So
Thank you. Our next question, again, Congresswoman, you alluded to this with the dead of night votes that you had, is what is in the quote unquote big beautiful bill unquote that will help small businesses?
yeah, this is a great question. And listen, this is why bills like this can be so challenging and I truly feel so problematic because this bill was 1,100 pages, right? Like 1,100 pages. We literally got the final version 1 minute before the clock struck midnight, and we were supposed to start registering procedural votes on that within the hour. So, that is not enough time for legislators to digest what's in there, have a reasonable conversation about it, and you only ultimately get one vote. And there is a ton in there that is good for small businesses, things that I support in their standalone. One of the biggest ones is the 199A pass-through deductions, which, I'm certainly glad that we have the procedural mechanism to do that going forward, right? I support carving that out, trying to handle it on its own instead of, weighing it down in the context of this entire bill. Because think about the jeopardy for that tax credit now, or these pass-through deductions, excuse me, going forward. This bill passed by one vote. We don't have those kind of margins when it goes to the Senate, right? And we're running out of time. So, this bill is going to go on to the Senate. It's not going to pass in the Senate in its current form. So something's going to happen. It's going to come back, and something else that has nothing to do with the 199A pass-throughs could derail it, like SALT deductions, right? Which has nothing to do with West Michigan small businesses, but real estate in the coasts largely. And we could lose this entire program because of it, right? So, I think that we need to carve these things out in an individual nature and address them. There's a bunch of other stuff in there that I agree with as well, like, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. I actually introduced the no tax on Social Security bill before Trump even started talking about it. So, when people were like, he's got a great idea, I was like, he sure does. I introduced the bill in the House about a year ago with some of my colleagues. So, there's a bunch of stuff like that. And one of the things that we're going to be doing as a team, again, because it is such a massive bill, and there is so much that is harmful for West Michigan. And I knew that I could not in good conscience vote for a bill that at its core is going to take healthcare away from over 13 million Americans. And that impacts small businesses as well, especially some of the enhanced premiums on the exchange, which so many of our small businesses, we know their employees rely on getting healthcare through the Affordable Care Act. There were massive changes in this bill that made it through that are going to impact that. Not only that, but I think that the benefits to small businesses did not go far enough. Overwhelmingly, the benefits, the Republicans, you will hear them talk about in the coming days. We passed we were the ones who extended, this 199A credit, whatever. We were the ones who, got these no tax on tips things through. It's true. It was in there. You can't argue with that. However, they also leveraged that by one of the biggest corporate handouts in American history, right? Continuing these huge tax benefits for corporations that is just going to make it, easier for them to gobble up small businesses and make it harder for small businesses to compete against them. So, yes, those were in there. I support them. I want to find a way to pull them out so we can address those separately. And keep the stuff out that's actually going to be harming small businesses. So, and again, another huge thing is these tax cuts that were extended to corporations and the largest benefits to the ultra wealthy. The way that the system is skewered, the way that the tax structure is skewered, the most benefits will go to the top 0.1% to the tune of tax benefits of $700 a day for the top 0.1%. At the very bottom, individuals will be losing money, not only because their tax benefits are going down, but also because those individuals also rely on Medicaid and SNAP, and they will be losing those benefits as well. And that's still not enough. We couldn't pay for it. So we have to raise the debt ceiling by about $4 trillion, which has caused Moody's to downgrade our AAA credit rating, which overall, has a negative economic impact that also impacts small businesses. So on the whole, I do not feel like this was a good bill, certainly not as good as it could have been for small businesses and everyday middle class working Americans. There were some good stuff in there, and I'm going to keep fighting to find a way that we can parcel that out because it has overwhelming bipartisan support. You put some of the plans out there that will continue the 199A pass-through deductions, put it on the House floor tomorrow, it would pass overwhelmingly, right? Not by a single vote like this bill did last night. So, Ed, I don't know if you wanna weigh in there as well about some of the stuff that you guys were watching, and I'll just wrap up by saying, I started by saying this is an 1,100-page bill. I do a little video every week called Straight Talk with Scholten, where I break down some of the legislative things in a little bit more wonky terms than people who casually observe social media might be interested in. And we're going to be doing a multi-part series throughout June to look at each section of the budget, from the SBA to agriculture, ways and means, and energy and commerce. And we'll be looking at, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beneficial, and breaking that down. So, tune in to our YouTube channel. You can also find it on our website. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. But it's, all of these things cannot be addressed even in the, the 30 minutes that we have for this town hall today. So, but it's important. And we know that our small businesses and, constituents in general want to know about it. So we'll be breaking that down.
Yeah, not much else to say on that topic. I think you covered it with this. We still digested it and see what'll happen. I will say, if you haven't engaged your local, probably Chamber of Commerce or even the Small Business Association in Michigan, they tend to stay up more on the legislative issues too. So in addition to the Congressman's office, and as she roll things out, because she's on the front line right there for sure. So you're getting the best source of information, right from the horse's mouth, which is the best way we like to get it instead of interpreting it for you. But oftentimes the chambers will do some analysis on it, the SFAM, Small Business Association, will do some analysis on some topics like that as well. So stay in tune with those two agencies too. They're partners of ours, and we use them to kind of bounce things off too as well, to see where things are going and what would be in the best interest of small business in particular.
Thank you. I see a side question to your last answer that I think you'll like, Congresswoman. It says, is there a reason why so many bills must be that big? Wouldn't it be better to have a one bill, one issue instead? Therefore, things happening on the coast wouldn't directly influence things in Michigan.
This pragmatic Midwest gal could not agree with you more. I mean, if I had to hear one more time about, how we were not going to be able to get this done, because, Republicans in New York wanted, more of an increase in, their SALT deductions, or they were going to walk away. It was like, let's separate that out. I get that it is a huge issue, but let's separate that out and not let it derail, something as critical as, the economic security of our small businesses and healthcare, right? And SNAP benefits. So, yeah, it's I could not agree more. My team hears me talk about it quite a bit.
A casual 1,100-page bill in an hour. Fantastic. All righty. It looks like we have time for one, maybe two more questions, depending on how long this answer is. But this says
I'll try to be
Congresswoman.
brief. Sorry.
Perfect. No, no, no,
I
no.
get worked up.
No. These are important answers, and we're getting lots of comments on the answers. And
Fun.
importantly, if we do not get to your question, we get a readout of all the questions in the chat and the Q&A feature that our team will get back to you. Hannah, who the Congresswoman alluded to, our small business staffer, will make sure to send you an email that her and the Congresswoman work on. So our next question is, Congresswoman, thank you for your leadership on small business issues. Are there any looming threats to the socioeconomic set-aside, such as the WASB program?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is definitely deeply concerning to me. And I have spoken, with many, many contractors, particularly women and women of color, who have felt the chilling effect of, many of the policies, that the administration has, labeled anti-woke policies that they're implementing, or anti-DEI. I still can't quite put a finger on how, like, they purport to really still support women, right? And the president says he's a huge champion of women, and yet they want to really undermine women-owned small businesses because they're quote unquote woke. So I don't understand it. But I know that, women have really felt, women contractors have really felt the chilling effect of that, and they've been terrified, wanting to, like, not use their first name to identify themselves as a woman in the contracting space, or taking anything off of their websites, that would identify them as such. We had a roundtable here in Washington, from, women contractors across the country. We were so proud to bring in a defense contractor from West Michigan, who was able to testify and share some of their experiences. So, listen, contracts and loans are not handouts. They are hard won by entrepreneurs every single day, on their merits. And a lot of these efforts to highlight the successes of, minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses is because they have faced significant institutional obstacles, in trying to get the contracts that they deserve. They are, in many respects, even more qualified because of the obstacles that they have had to overcome and the discrimination that they have had to experience. At the end of the day, the contracts that we award, particularly in the defense space, have to be awarded to the most capable, the best, and the brightest contractor. And any efforts to highlight, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not to say we're going to give those businesses a handout. It's to say we are not going to let discrimination stand in the way of handing out the contract to the best and the brightest.
Fantastic. Ed, is there anything you want to add on that one?
No, I think we're good there.
Thank you so much. I know that we're over 30 minutes, so Congresswoman, I just want to turn to you and Ed to close.
Well, thank you so much. I actually just opened the chat because my team was like, don't look at it because you're going to get distracted and you need to just focus on your answers. But I see a lot of comments in there that we haven't had a chance to get to yet. And I just want you to know our team is jotting them down. We will absolutely follow up directly. And this is not the only chance that you will have to engage. I am continuing to do monthly town halls. You can always reach out to our office with a phone call, an email, and a letter, and we get back to you. We have a very fast response rate. We're out here fighting for you, West Michigan. This is a very, very challenging time. Whether you agree with 100% of what was in this big bill that was just passed on the House floor, or you disagree with none of it, we know that the uncertainty around what is in it is creating a really challenging space for West Michigan businesses to exist in, right? It passed out of the House, but now it's going to the Senate. Everyone's saying it's not going to pass there. So then it's coming back into the president's desk, and we don't have unlimited time. So I am working for the best option. I believe it is breaking these things down and addressing them, in their most urgent one at a time, and that's what we're gonna really continue fighting for. So the information is there in the chat as well about how to reach out to the office. And Ed, I'll turn it over to you for any other closing remarks.
Yes, great. Thank you, Congressman. Just 2 points I want to make. You see the contact information for the congressman there. I would just say keep making your voices heard. We do listen, and as you said, we're working for you. So, and we need to hear from you so we know what's important to you, so we know what to fight for. We know what to advocate for it. So keep making your voices heard through her offices, through our offices, and other offices as well, because people do listen. Secondly, the thing that you need also, I want to make sure people are aware of resources they have to support their small businesses. So one of the things that we're getting ready to produce at the Small Business Development Center is a resource guide directory. This one is kind of Kent County focused. It'll be ready, I think, by the end of next week. And then we're doing one for the Lakeshore and some other communities and stuff as well. So if you want a copy of that resource guide or directory, just email us at sbdc@gvsu.edu. Sam Boyd, David Charlie, sbdc@gvsu.edu. We'll make sure to get you a copy of that 2025 updated resource guide with all the contact information, names of folks and agencies that you need to know about to help support your small business.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you for all of your work. And to all of you who joined us, thank you for what you do every single day. Our small businesses are the lifeblood of West Michigan. It is what makes us such a vibrant and wonderful community. So thank you. Hope to see you all soon.
Thank you so much. We will answer your questions via email. Thank you. Have a great
Thank
holiday
you.
weekend.